He says, I keep getting ghosted after I send my Google Doc to my prospect. I keep getting dozens of people telling me to send them the Google Doc that shows them the strategy, and then I get ghosted. How can I fix this? Here's the Google Doc. It doesn't have the dramatic demonstrations yet, but is that enough for them not to take action? Also, I attach pictures of my conversation with one of the prospects. They ghost me after I send the doc. I have the first step locked in, but the next step I'm stuck. I was thinking about asking for them a question before sending them the doc, something like, awesome, real quick before I send it, are you running paid ads right now or just doing all organic stuff? Jacob, what's a good way to structure automation/AI orchestration in an offer, especially with thought to making a monthly recurring fee? Remy says, question for Frankie Fihn. Is this overkill? Someone's DMing me asking for my 5-minute Loom. I send it, but then also send some client testimonial videos I made. I got 3 videos I can show them.
Yo, it's Frankie Fihn. Beach mode engaged. Loom's loaded, AI's humming. Let's go!
What's up, everybody? Are we in? There we go. Crack the matrix. The shocker works. Welcome back, everybody, to another Agency Owners Weekly Q&A. As you can see, I got some free conference shirts from the old high-level team, and you know I like free shit, so here we are. Quick little announcement just before we get rocking and rolling for those of you guys who are new around here. I'm just telling you guys I want to build the coolest phoneless, meetingless mastermind of all time, and you guys are missing out by not being in it. Let's just say that. I see so many people try and figure out all this agency stuff the hard way, which is what I did, by the way. It spent like 10 years, but that was only because there weren't really options available to me. There were no books. There were no courses, there were no training, there were no masterminds. I didn't know of any events I could go to. I learned actually my best stuff from attorneys and realized, man, their business model's really, really similar to ours. So anyways, if you guys are interested in that, you can go to beyondagencyprofits.com. There's a link for the Wolfpack. If you guys are watching this live with me on Facebook, there's a button you can click. It says ways we can work together, and it's got some details there. Anyways, let's talk. We got questions. Before we go, though, we got to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly... There's a little false start. Frankie Fihn proudly brings you our weekly Q&A. With the golden dad guns. With the greatest of all time, the man they call the man, His Holiness. 170 pounds of pure steel and sex appeal. It's Frankie Fihn here coming at you guys. All right. Cool. Enough of the shenanigans. Let's get into your questions. Who do we got up first? I believe that. Mohit is first. Sorry, I was just reading 2 questions. That's one, and it didn't make sense. There we go. Okay. He says, "How do I ask for a raise and get it when I'm at an hourly at an agency? For example, I handle Klaviyo for email or for e-com marketing agencies and AFAI." If I'm one of the costliest ones. I implement stuff accurately, which no other freelancer has been able to do. So at least in my circles, that's my only USP. But how do I prove it when reaching out to other agencies? Another fun fact: at an agency where I had been for 3+ years, I was fired because they were facing a significant downturn, and I was one of the costliest per email per client, and wasn't hourly. I'll give you the short answer for that, Mohit. Is like. You probably, if you want to raise your rate hourly, you're probably not going to do it by asking for a higher hourly rate. Unless you position yourself through like authoritative content as the best in the world. So if people see you speaking on stage or around top people, like you could potentially charge a really high hourly rate. But I'm going to suggest to you what I think is the simplest way to raise your hourly rate. Like let's say you charge folks $30 an hour. I don't know what you actually charge. Instead of just saying, hey, it's $30 an hour and then trying to get somebody to pay you $60, say it's $30 an hour plus I get 10% of all the sales I help you generate, or 10% of the profits of the sales I help you generate. And if they say okay to that, you effectively have just raised your hourly rate. Because nobody, by the way, wants hourly shit anyway. Everybody wants results. That's why they're hiring marketing companies, right? Like they want sales, and so ultimately... asking for a share of the upside will get that to you. Does that mean it's always going to be easy and straightforward and everyone will pay you? No. Sometimes it'll be a challenge. The other way to sort of raise your rate is, and you will get screwed on some of these, but we do partnership deals this way. It's like, actually, you can pay me second, not first. I will get you the sales, and then you can pay me a commission when they come in. And in doing so, you can ask for a much, much bigger piece of the pie, right? Like, hey, I'll take your email list. I'll load it up. I'll set up the emails. I'll click send. I'll generate the sales. And when they come in, then I'm going to collect this much. And people will be like, cool, cool, cool. Yeah, anyway. There was another piece you asked. How do I prove it to other agencies? Just prove it, man. Just if you got real sales and results and emails, like there's a reason you're charging top dollar now. So get some evidence in the old file, like this is I can do what I say I can do, and start bringing that. That's going to be a theme today, evidence, by the way, because the next question here by our man Jorge, he says, I keep getting ghosted after I send my Google Doc to my prospect. I keep getting dozens of people telling me to send them the Google Doc that shows them the strategy, and then I get ghosted. How can I fix this? Here's the Google Doc. It doesn't have the dramatic demonstrations yet, but is that enough for them not to take action? Also, I attach pictures of my conversation with one of the prospects. They ghost me after I send the doc. I have the first step locked in, but the next step I'm stuck. I was thinking about asking for them a question before sending them the doc, something like, awesome, real quick before I send it, are you running paid ads right now or just doing all organic stuff? I would skip the question. I think that's I get annoyed personally, maybe not everybody, this is true, but I get annoyed when people ask me questions that they could easily find by just Googling my name or clicking something, like when it's 30 seconds of research. I usually just ignore those questions because I'm too busy to answer things that they could easily Google. Personally, so I'm not saying that's true of everybody. Oh, by the way, Facebook's doing that thing where I know you guys are leaving comments, but I don't see them until after the fact, but I will happily answer your questions there. So a couple of things. I laid this out in a video that'll be coming out over the next couple of weeks. I don't know, like whenever my assistant Mark gets through it, who's awesome. But one of the things I laid out is a flow for cold outreach, which is firstly, I think it's sold in our space as, oh, just send a cold DM and someone's going to hand you 10 grand and you'll be rich by the evening. And every day I talk to people who are disillusioned to find out it's harder than that, and that you don't just fucking cold DM people. And it's very, very fucking rare that like it's a perfect market match fit where they're just like, let's fucking do it. And so they usually find out it's a grind. And even though I'm not the biggest fan of cold outreach, I want to give you guys tools to be able to do it. And so I laid out, I think there's 4 distinct phases of cold outreach. So phase 1 is what I call the hand raiser, and that's like just getting them to say I'm interested. And unlike what a lot of people do, these are not really salesy. They're very short. They make it easy for a prospect to say, tell me more. So in your case, you're getting through that hurdle. They're giving you the, hey, green light, send me a Google Doc with info. The next thing I do is I present to them a custom personalized plan. Like, I have an idea that will help you in the following way. And the following way is not, here's all about my service. It's all about what they want. And I have a simple formula for that, which is ideas equal free and implementation equals money. So for example, like if I give you ideas on, I don't know, like let's say I'm talking to a guy about SEO, I would just give them some ideas of how they can start fixing their rankings right away. And then at the end of that, the next green light is, can I tell you what it would look like to get my help to implement it, right? So ideas first, implementation second. And then the last phase is follow-up. Nobody really talks about this, but there's generally in the real world, like a lot of actual follow-up to get prospects over the finish line. So to me, part of what like is breaking that flow is you're going from step 1, hey, they said I'm interested, to step 3, here's how you can pay me to do that. If you do a Loom video right, you can kind of combine those into a single step, but I would suggest, like in the early stages, separate them. Like just give them free, valuable ideas, knowing they can't implement them without your help anyway. And so you don't have to hold back on the valuable ideas. Like a plumber doesn't know how to fix their fucking Google reviews or even what their GBP fucking password is and all that kind of shit. So that's the first thing, right? Is like, I would give them the ideas. Now, as far as like your document itself, you said like, oh, you know, it's without the dramatic demonstrations, like as if that's a small detail. And I'll tell you, I spent years working with personal injury attorneys. One of the things they told me is you can't say anything in court because no one believes you, and they're not supposed to believe you unless you bring evidence. So like, for example, if somebody has their car totaled in an accident, you can't say my car was totaled. You have to have pictures of the car and the accident. You have to bring the bills and the proof that like you actually spent all this money getting your car repaired. It's not enough to say my back hurts. You need like a doctor to come in and say, yep, these are the x-rays. His fucking number 2 whatever is fucked up, and he's not going to be able to work for a long, long time, and he's already lost like $70,000 just by being time off of work, right? You need evidence for everything. Now, I want you to relate that to a Loom video or a Google Doc. People don't fucking believe you, right? Like, that's the biggest barrier to all of this, is you're trying to make sales, and people fundamentally don't trust marketers, and they don't believe you, and you inherit a shitty-ass fucking reputation. You're a cocksucking, thieving, motherfucking, lying piece of shit marketer. Like, that's the starting place you inherit. Welcome to our industry, right? So, part of how you overcome that is with evidence, and a lot of times people assume evidence equals case studies and proof and all those things, but they're really just like, if I say I'm going to bring you a lead, then show an example lead, and now it makes it real that you actually know how to generate a fucking lead. If you say these keywords will get you to number 1, then like actually show the fucking keywords, right? Like, bring the fucking evidence that, hey, people are searching you on Google. Don't just say that and assume that they believe you. Bring that as proof. Right? So like, you want to present this almost as a court case where you're trying to present evidence. So yeah, we're answering their questions, and the other reason to do this visually, right? Not just in written form. Why visually? Because people get it faster. They get it so much faster when you show them a picture. I'm going to bring you high quality leads is not as powerful as, let me show you a phone call we got of a guy who was interested in a deck yesterday. Here, listen to this call. Hey, I'm interested in getting a deck built. You guys, could you mind coming out and giving me a quote? Evidence, right? So don't take that as a small detail. Like, that is part of what makes a Loom video, is like, we're presenting it in a way where it's real. Like, most people just show up and they sell what I call the undefined more. We'll get you more leads and more sales and more customers, and now at Frankie Fihn, more Aporia, more. And then they've been burned by that like a dozen fucking times. And it's not real to them anymore. So like, by bringing the evidence, we're making it real. So don't take that as a small detail, but as far as like where the sequence is breaking down, you got them to raise their hand, gave you a green light for the Google Doc. Next piece is, here's the idea I got for you. And then the next green light is, can I tell you about what it would look like to get my help to implement that idea? And then the next green light is, let's actually go over the finish line and work together. That's like the basic flow of those conversations. I'm not saying that's the only flow, but that's what's worked for us, right? So I just want to asterisk, because I hate when motherfuckers on the internet are like, this is the only fucking way to do it. No, there's lots of ways to be successful. I'm just sharing what's worked for us over like 20 years. Is you start with, hey, I got a cool, valuable thing for you. Can I tell you more about it? Then you give it to them for free, an idea form. Then you say, at the end of that, would it be okay if I send you some details of what it would be like to get my help? And then it's a well-crafted presentation that answers all their questions and demonstrates it's real, and then gives them the chance to buy it. And even still, there's usually follow-up in the real world. But if you do that, by the way, you can have a consistent process of going from strangers to paying you, just so you know. So I hope that's helpful. But like, dude, don't leave out those demonstrations. If you guys want to sell phoneless, don't assume that words are enough. Everybody has told them with words, more leads, more sales, more customers, top rankings. We will get you top Google. We will get you top of the Google. Right? They've been hearing that for fucking years. They don't believe you. Make it real, motherfuckers. Make it real by showing them pictures and evidence. Here's an example phone call. Here's an example fucking keyword. Here's an example change we need to make to your Google business place. Right? Visual and real. And like, take it out of the abstract. Jerome, that's a French Jerome right there. Our French man. He says, helping a mate with his agency stuff, and here's the idea. Instead of going one by one to each professional of the BTP industry in France, I want to reach out to the businesses that sell to those pros, like the window supplier, the aluminum supplier, etc. And I want to offer them to license and sell my system that helps those same pros not have leads go through the cracks, follow up with them even when they're busy, and by using the system, sign a few more prospects each month or year. My thinking would be, have a setup fee of around $8.99, have a monthly fee to access the system for $349, $449. I'll share some of the money with the business who send me referrals. What do you guys think? Couple things that jump out at me. So firstly, like the general concept is good. Like I think you're pretty on point. Rather than trying to sell prospects one to one, you go to the shoe store where everybody buys the shoes and you say, let's work on a deal where you can make money selling my shoes and I'll provide these valuable shoes to your people, and you probably sell some fucking shoes faster than if you tried to do that individually. So the general concept is good. Now, there's a couple of details in there that I think will help you tighten that, okay? First detail, okay, is even though a shoe store is interested in your potential arrangement, there's a lot people don't realize. Once you become an influencer and you have an audience of people and you have buyers who trust you, you have a lot to lose by recommending shitty things. Like all of a sudden, if you fuck up, your audience may never listen to you again. And the flip side of that is, you as the person making the deal have a lot to gain, so you're going to be very preoccupied with how much money you can gain, and they're going to be preoccupied with how much reputation they can lose. And so the way you protect their reputation is you don't come in and say, sell this to all your people. You say, is there one person that you think would be open to trying this just to show you that it works? And you're going to have to demonstrate to them that it really fucking works, and you won't make very much money for like 30 or 60 days most likely. Like you'll make a little bit, don't get me wrong, but you won't make the big money until they've seen it works. And then when they've seen it work, they're way more likely to put their stamp of approval and send it to everybody. So they have a lot to lose, right? So they're going to tread carefully and they're going to want to see a real demonstration. So I don't come in the door and say, hey, like send this to all your people. I start with, let's just do this for one person. And ideally, if you really want to get your foot in the door, like do it for free or at cost, just to show them it works. And they'll be open to stuff like that, just so you know. So that's the first part. The second thing is when you are negotiating with shoe stores, like it helps to have prices in mind and percentages and stuff like that. But honestly, if you're just renting intellectual property, which sounds like you are, any price you get for it is good, right? So like I have a library of Google Docs and materials and videos, and if somebody came to me and said, I want to pay you $5 extra for this video, that would be a bonus $5 extra I ain't got to do shit for. Whether they pay me 5 or 500 or 50 grand or 5 fucking million, either way, it's like it's all gravy extra money. So having said that, like this is going to be a real live negotiation. And it's very unlikely you're going to have the same terms with two identical people. Meaning you could do this for 10 shoe stores and you'll have different terms with all 10. So if you go into it thinking like this is the price and not that this is a negotiation, you'll probably screw up more deals. But like, you know, like the attitude you kind of want to go in the door with is, how do we make this a win-win? I got this cool thing that I want to get in your people's hand. It helps them in the following way, and I want you to be able to get something. And it may be with one person, they might want a bigger chunk up front and none of the ongoing. Another person may be a little more savvy and say, hey, I'll take less of that money, but I want some of the ongoing for every person I recommend you. There's a lot of different ways you can splice it, but like you won't be able to charge like the same one set price to everybody. Just so you know, that's generally not how licensing deals work in the real world. But remember, everything is a plus if you're just renting intellectual property, because you're not signing yourself up for more work. So I have like people who go sell my courses and they're like, hey, I'm going to keep 80-90% of the money. I'm like, go for it, dude. Right? If I don't have to do anything and you get to make some money and I make a little teeny tiny bit, like that's all gravy to me, right? So anyways, I wanted to share that with you guys because I think that's extra powerful. By the way, just throwing it out there again, you guys just joining me. Facebook's doing that thing. I don't see your comments. It seems to be the standard these days. I'm not ignoring you guys. Hello to anybody who said hello on the old feed, because I appreciate you guys. All right, we got Ed up. Ed says that we're talking about high ticket clients here. This was a reply kind of question, but he said the challenge I found is the ability to find those clients. I built my website marketing automation before COVID and got to the stage of charging $10K for my services. I didn't pivot quickly enough in COVID, and the LTD went bust. Entirely my fault. After a couple of years of resetting, split from my girlfriend of 10 years and kids, became homeless. I've started again this year with new socials, new everything. I'm currently attacking my local area, and the businesses here aren't in great shape. They see the value, but just don't have the cash. I'm doing a very basic website for someone for $500 at a moment. Must be 10 years or so since I did that one at that price, just because I needed the money coming in. I've got a full-time job as well to make sure I can provide, but until I get out of the desperate mode, I can't afford to stick to my guns and hold off for a client with the budget. I've got my old case studies and testimonials up on the website to show them, to show people who ask. Any advice on quickly finding the people with budget when starting over from scratch would be appreciated, especially in such a competitive market. And yes, I know it was stupid to burn it all and delete my network, but I wasn't in a good headspace and thinking clearly when I did that. No worries, dude. Ed, I get you. It sounds like you went through a 10-year relationship, big old fucking messy breakup. Shit happens, right? So let's talk about a couple of things here. Okay, firstly, this is kind of a metaphor I like to use for industries that if you really understand this, you'll realize why it's important to be a rifle and not a shotgun. So you're kind of like, part of the reason you're not finding clients with budget is because you're a shotgun right now. And so what I mean by that is, I used to experience, so this is true of any market. Like, so you mentioned your local area. Let's just call it, Denver. I don't know where you're actually at. But like the same thing would be true if I got in a room with attorneys or dentists or HVAC companies or e-commerce brands. It doesn't really matter. But let's imagine we could take 100 of your target people and get them in a room. What most people don't realize is there is a very pronounced 80-20 in there. So what I mean by that is, if there's 100 dentists, right? Like say your industry is dentists. I know it's not. Or 100 people from your local city. 80 of them spend very little on marketing. In fact, there are 20 people who outspend by 4, 5, 10, sometimes depending on the industry, 20 times the rest of the room combined. And within the 80-20, there's an 80-20 in itself. There's usually like one guy who spends more than the rest of the entire room. Okay? So what a lot of people do is they focus on a business and try, in your case, sell websites and just think that regardless of who I sell it to, it's of equal value. It's the same to everybody, and it's not true. And by the way, the people who are doing more volume, there's a tendency to think because they're spending bigger money that they have it all figured out, and they actually have more need for your services. Like I have clients, by the way, who fit that description of the one guy who outspends everyone else, and they often have a need for 101, 120 websites kind of thing, right? Because they need one for each practice area and each location, and they need one for each partner in the office, and they need a Spanish version, and like they have, one for every practice area, and just a Tampa divorce specific, right? So they need like all these different options for different websites. Sorry, I hear my toddlers wigging out in the background. So that's my way of saying it. It's really more about who you sell websites to. If you go into it with the attitude that your target market is everyone, you will be surprised to find out most businesses are broke, and that's just how that is. And then you'll go, oh my God, I can never charge more than $500 for a website. And as Jason Canigan said on one of our posts, he said, like, one of the things I really wish people could get through their heads is, not everybody is fucking broke. Not everybody wants the fucking cheapest. Not everybody wants like can you give me a price break? In fact, some people want to pay more and get the best. Like I've been in the room with a lot of the top guys, and the question they ask is not who's the cheapest guy, for blank. They ask the question, who is the best, the absolute best person, for blank. And they focus on getting the best over and over and over. And so here's the simple way you identify them, by the way. The people who have money to spend are spending it. Right? This is such a simple mindset shift, but if they actually have money to spend, you do not need to convince them to do it. They're already doing it. So like when I work with a lot of the top companies, they'll say, we budget 10% a year on marketing. We budget 15% a year on marketing. Meaning if we take in 100 million, we're going to spend 15 million going to go market the business. And that's just what we fucking do. Okay? So the easiest way to tell that a business has money to spend is that they're spending it. That means if you Google their name, what are some things you should find? Pay-per-click ads, websites, sometimes multiple websites, an Instagram account, evidence that they're paying for SEO, ads, things like that. And it's counterintuitive, right? Because almost always we try and sell for need to broke people. So if you want to be more rifle, picking targets, and way less shotgun. Let's just shoot a bunch of fucking spaghetti cannons at the wall and see what spaghetti sticks and see which ones my toddlers will eat off the wall. You focus on the people you know have money to spend. And so this is more about disqualification before you talk to people than it is about trying to be for anyone and anything. And this is a mindset shift that it takes. In the beginning, I used to think about this as like I'm trying to get hired. I'm trying to get someone to pick me, choose me. Instead of, there goes my target. Like when you go hunting, which I'm not a hunter, but if I was, I played hunting video games. Does that count? But if you go, you got like a fucking target and you're aiming for it. Like I used to play this game with my brother called Deer Hunter. It's like an arcade with a gun, and I would beat my brother and crush his soul at it. You're aiming that one fucking prize deer, and you go and you get him, right? You don't spray it everywhere. You don't just go shoot the whole screen and see what happens. So instead of thinking about this like getting hired, like think about this as I'm choosing, and then really focus on how can I add value to people who are already spending money. By the way, and the more money they spend, the more problems they have, the more shit there is to manage as a result of that, and the more they have the need for multiple websites and multiple teams. So like I look at these two criteria as the most important. Are they spending money already? Do they have a team? Right? Like if they're spending money, chances are like it's paying for a team. So what you'll find is most of the broke people in various industries, they're single solo operators and they've never spent money. And they'll go, well, I don't know, man, $500 for a website. That's a lot of money. And then what you'll find is in some of the same industries, you'll find people who spend $100,000 on a website and don't bat an eye. And you by the way, you got to make a lot less websites when you sell $100,000 websites. And you can focus on making them a better product because you can actually invest more in the team and the time and the building it out. So that's my way of saying like become a rifle, become a chooser, don't become the hunter, don't become the chosen, the OG golly, I'm so lucky to be here and get picked. And you do that by identifying the people already spending money. And then you hyper focus on creating valuable solutions for those people. So, I use this analogy just to kind of make the point. But back in the day, there used to be people who sold like vacuum cleaners door to door. And my ex used to own like 7 vacuum cleaners. So we had carpet, and she had bad asthma, and she just wanted the best vacuum because the more she got rid of the dust, the better she felt like she could breathe. She felt like she wasn't going to suffocate. So she owned every top-of-the-line vacuum you could possibly fucking own, right? I want you to imagine you're a door-to-door vacuum cleaner salesman, right? Half the houses you knock on are going to be broke people. Half the houses you knock on, like, already got a vacuum and don't want more. And half the houses you knock on, like, don't even have fucking carpets, right? Imagine you could get a list of everybody in the neighborhood who owned 7 vacuum cleaners or more. And you can make an argument why this is the 8th one they need. Right? If you could get that list and just knock on those doors, you would sell way more vacuum cleaners. So I want you to think about it like that. Right? I want to sell vacuum cleaners to people who have a proven history of buying them. Not trying to convince any old business owner to buy a website. I mentioned this like a video I made a while back, but if I wanted to make a bunch of money selling websites, I would focus on businesses that have at least 20 domains or more and sell them website number 21. And what I would not do is deal with a guy who's gone 30 years without a fucking website and trying to convince him to get in the game. Like, it's very rare that somebody who's never spent money after 30 years goes, today's the day I'm going to invest in a fucking website, right? And it's way more likely that the person who has 20 is like, yeah, all right, I'll get a 21st website. You're right, I do need a Spanish version. You're right, I do need one just for my partner, whatever, right? I do need one just for our press and media. That's how I would create those high-value designs, is sell to people who have a history of buying them. Sounds like a small detail, but I use this story and metaphor to illustrate how fucking important it is. Okay, we're sitting around and we decide we want to build a rib empire. So we're going to sell like barbecue pork ribs. Then I go, okay, you're the salesperson. You got to go sell ribs. And I give you a plane ticket and I send you to New York City and I send you to the Jewish Vegetarian Conference. How many ribs do you think you're going to sell? Right? They're vegetarian. They don't eat meat. And they're Jewish, so they especially don't eat pork. Like, you're not going to make any sales. I don't care what your message is. I don't care what your offer is. I don't care how good you are. Because I put you in front of non-buyers, there's nothing you're going to say that is going to make a sale. Flip side of that is if I send you to like the South and like a college football game, you're going to crush it. You're going to have to line a stadium half a mile long of people trying to buy ribs from you, right? Same product, right? Like that's the difference between buyers and non-buyers. So if the more you hyper focus on the people who have a proven history of buying in your industry and obsess about finding the buyers, the more money you'll be able to charge for it. The more you think it's about your product and your deliverable and the state of the marketplace and roofers just won't pay that much money anymore and shit like that, that I hear people say all the time, well, my industry won't pay that. By the way, just so you guys know, one of the cool things about being me and being like, getting to see thousands of agencies is I see a lot of struggling in various industries, and I'll see people charging 20 times as much in the same industry that supposedly you can't get the money for. Every day somebody will tell me nobody will pay more than $500 for a website in my industry. Meanwhile, I know like 6 people already charging 50 grand for a website. So that's just an example of that principle kind of extended, but I hope that's helpful to you, my man Ed. Remy says, question for Frankie Fihn, is this overkill? Someone's DMing me asking for my 5-minute Loom. I send it, but then also send some client testimonial videos I made. I got 3 videos I can show them. So this is one of those things where right tool for the right job, and you have to be careful how you use this. Okay? So not a lot of people really think about this, but what sales tool makes sense depends a lot on where you are in the conversation and what's happened leading up to it. The dirtiest example I can give you is my wife and I, we had some action last night, all right? So I'm just sharing that with you guys. We got a bunch of kids running around for a reason, right? And there was no magic line. There was no build-up. There was no seduction. It was just like, hey, do you want to get a quickie in? And a wink. And it was like, yeah, all right, let's do that, right? That was it, right? That was it. So there's a tendency to think, okay, then you can just go up to people and say, hey, you want to go for a quickie and wink? And if you do that with a stranger, the exact tool that just worked. And so that's my illustration of like right tool for the job. And so I view high ticket sales as like an American football field where like you move forward and get first downs. And sometimes the things that work to get the ball in the goal line are actually things that are terrible ideas, right? Like if you're 98 yards away and you're just trying to run the ball for 1 yard a play, that's stupid. You're going to punt it away and lose. But if you're 2 yards away in 2 plays, you're going to have a touchdown, right? So, or maybe 1, right? So you want to, like different plays for different things. So my first question is, where are they in relation to you? As a general rule, giving people one thing to look at a time is generally better for you, even if you have all of those things. I compare it to like people want to rush sales, like you meet somebody and maybe you guys go on some dates and you start getting frisky and you're touching each other's legs and you're kissing, right? You still have to like pace yourself after you touch the leg. You can't like just, stick it in the butt or something like that. And you got to warm up to those things, right? And so even if I had 3 testimonial videos ready to go, what I would do is I would send the video, give them a chance to digest the video, and then as part of the follow-up go, oh, by the way, you may be interested in what this person had to say. And then I would wait again after the first testimonial and then go, oh, there's another one. Because otherwise what happens is if you use the wrong tool for the wrong job, you actually start unselling people. So I have people who come to me, for example, they say, hey, Frankie, I've watched 50 of your videos and I checked out your video about the Wolfpack and I'm ready to join the mastermind. I got a question or two. Well, the worst thing I can do in that scenario is go, well, here's my book. Go read my book cover to cover. I got a webinar. Make sure you watch this 45-minute webinar and then schedule a call. But I'm traveling this week, so let's schedule it in 2 weeks. I'll actually start unselling people from like the extra hoops and things I make them jump through. Flip side of that is if somebody just met me and says, how can I learn more about you? I go, here's a book, here's a webinar, here's a video. Like those things will actually be really, really useful. So that's my way of saying, take this with a grain of salt. There is no one size fits all. Like this is always the right tool to use. But as a general rule, giving them one piece of the puzzle to digest it at once. The other thing you can do is put it on a single page where it's got the video and then it's got 3 testimonials below it with a video, and then you're only sending the person one thing to think about at a time, which is just 1 page. But as a general rule, what happens is if you send me too much shit at once as a prospect, what happens is now you start giving me homework. And by the way, I get cold pitched a lot, and a lot of people give me fucking homework, and I'm like, right? Like, I don't want fucking homework. So what I mean by that is people will send me like a 45-page novel on who they are and what their services are and all these fucking links and things I got to read. And I'm like, homie, don't got time for that. Like, you just gave me work. Like, I'm going to read 45 minutes worth of shit on you guys and your entire fucking novel of an email. Like, so don't put homework on me. Make it, that's like the whole point of a Loom video, is to make it really simple and easy for them to understand the basics and get to the point. And then from there, you know, escalate it along. And by the way, just so you guys know, there are follow-ups involved in the real world, even with Loom videos. So like, testimonials make for great follow-ups. You know, like, there's lots of reasons why people don't jump out of their chair and just like throw the credit card at you and buy right from video. By the way, shout out to Karen and JC for getting me my own branded coffee thing. I just fill it with water. I'm not a coffee drinker. Actually, one of the few people out there that don't like coffee. I don't know what's up with that, right? Makes me all jittery. I don't like how I feel on it. Maybe you guys feel differently on that. But anyways, coming back to that, like, just be careful. And like, as a general rule, I would say just give prospects the next piece of the puzzle at a time. I have this, by the way, with my lady, where she'll come to me and she'll give me 7 or 8 things that are in her head. She's already rehearsed and they'll clear. And she'll go, okay, you need to go here and get this at 7. I'm sending this. I got to blah, blah, blah for the payment, blah, blah, blah. And she'll like just throw 8 things at me rapid fire. And in her mind, she's thinking about them all day. And I'm like, what? Wait, go back. What was the first one? Right? What was the first damn thing you said? Hold on. Say that again. And then she'll be like, you're not listening to me. I'm like, no, listen. You just threw too much at me at once. And the brain scrambled, right? Because we forget the most important detail is not how fast we can go in the sale. It's how fast the prospect can integrate what we're saying. And so for that reason, one piece of the puzzle at a time, and then like add to it. So I, like, if it was me, Loom video, then if they don't immediately buy, I would use the testimonial as part of a follow-up. And then if they don't immediately buy from that, I'd use the testimonial as part of a follow-up. And then if they don't immediately buy, I'd send another testimonial as part of a follow-up. And that's how I would do that. And that would happen probably over days, by the way, just to be clear. So anyways, I hope that's helpful. And by the way, I just want to be clear. That's just because that's how I would do it. That's not like, there's no one size fits all. That's the perfect answer for everybody. Sometimes people do want a big dump of like, just give me everything you fucking got and I'll go look at it on my own. So like, you know, there are certainly exceptions to that. That's why I say you got to kind of take it in context. But usually as a general rule, one piece is far more likely to get them to integrate it, use it, and take the next step. I found this, by the way, every split test I've ever run in my life, if you give people 2 decisions, they make 0. 3 decisions, they make even less move forward. You give them, the only time 3 or 4 decisions works is when they're like small, medium, and large of one offer, right? Like, hey, you want this one offer, small, medium, large. Like software works a lot like that. You want the enterprise? Do you want the beginner? Do you want the intermediate plan, right? But they're still just selling you one software with just like 3 different tier access. So anyways, as a general rule, like, sales are always better with one thing. And just throwing it out there, by the way, when you guys are leaving those awesome comments that I won't see them till after, because Facebook's doing that thing where I don't see your stuff in real time. I'm not ignoring you guys. Jacob, what's a good way to structure automation/AI orchestration in an offer, especially with thought to making a monthly recurring fee? So just so you know, we already got folks that are charging monthly recurring fees from AI tools, and it's kind of magic when you do it, because the AI is the work, the AI is the fulfillment, right? Like, there is no deliverable, and for that reason, it's just pretty fucking cool, right? Like, selling things that provide recurring income absent of recurring effort, like, that makes old man Frankie want to go back to mama's old recipe from the old country. You know, oh, it's a beautiful thing, right? Because it to me, this is the real trick to balancing freedom for you, but also impact from your client. And so a lot of times people get hung up in the tools. What sort of recurring thing could I sell? Could I sell a GAL? Could I sell a chat bot? Should I sell a phone thing? And I think it's far more useful to start. I always believe entrepreneurship is easier if you start with people and if you start with problems. Not with tools, not with what you know how to do, not with the 87 different ideas you got rolling around your head. Start with a group of people you want to help, and start with their problem. So the first thing is, like, we have people selling AI phone solutions on recurring packages. Why does that work? Because if you go back to the people, right? The people have a need every month for somebody to answer their phone. And by the way, even if they do it perfectly, they usually don't have it covered 24/7, right? So, like, for example, lots of businesses are not bad at answering their phone Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, but what happens on evenings and weekends, right? So an AI phone solution bolts on and handles that recurring problem and and helps them to, you know, book people in the system, right? Sorry, I live in a desert, and when I talk for like, run my mouth for like 30, 40 minutes, I definitely feel the dryness. So anyways, so if you think about the people and the nature of the problem, it's recurring, right? So if you get caught in like the tech stack, oh, I could make a bubble, an N8N, whatever, those kind of things, you're gonna focus on the tools, and you're gonna ultimately, like, I've been guilty of this over the years, where I come up with something that I think is really cool, and I spend months and months and months building it, and then I put it out, and I find out I'm the only one who thought it was a good idea. And almost always it's because I started with me and the things I know how to do instead of people and the problems they got. And by the way, this creates little shifts in your deliverable. Like, an example I gave of this is when I was doing the 90-day challenge with restoration people. For those of you guys who don't know, the number one question I got asked over the last 5, 6 years, you're me, you're starting over, you want to get to 10K a month, you want to do as fast as possible, what would you do? So I did it in the water damage restoration space. And one of the things that we did in that space is I went to the people, I joined their communities, and I asked them, like, you know, questions like, what kind of jobs do you wish you had more, and what do you wish you had less of, and what are the worst parts about our industry, and so forth. And one of the things they said is, there's certain types of jobs that they almost feel like they just never get paid on, like the insurance company them along forever, they're waiting on paychecks, they always try and, like, you know, lowball them and give them a small amount. And so when I asked them what jobs do you get paid on, they were like, oh, these ones. And so we created a service about, hey, I'll help you get the jobs you actually get paid on. And that's way more appealing, by the way, than what most people do, which is, we'll get you more leads and more sales and more customers and more jobs and more jobs and more. Well, if a guy's not even getting paid on half the fucking jobs he gets, telling him you're going to get more shit he doesn't get paid for is not, like, going to be all that exciting to him. But if you say, hey, these ones over here that you actually get paid on, I want to bring you these ones, and these ones specifically, would you be interested in that? And then we had to tweak our deliverable to aim at certain keywords and things like that, and to kind of tweak website copy and GBPs and stuff like that. Just a little bit, nothing major, but to aim at those ones. But I say that to you guys because if you start with the people and the problems, then any sort of tool or software or whatever that does that. And I'll tell you where I think the big opportunity is. I've been fucking ranting on this for a little while because this is the opposite of what everyone else thinks, okay? Everyone else thinks about, okay, is marketing. And why wouldn't you? Like, AI and marketing, like, it's the closest thing to a silver bullet that I've ever seen, right? Like, it does all the shit for you. And so as a result, marketers are really interested in websites and copy and social media posts and fucking videos and all those things. But I'll tell you where I think the boring opportunities are to make recurring revenue are fulfillment, right? Like, why do people pay all that fucking money for, like, TurboTax? Like, every time I watch a football game, there's a fucking goddamn TurboTax commercial. Because it's just a boring fulfillment problem. You got to fucking do taxes, and most people don't want to figure that shit out. So, like, a software that helps is pretty useful, right? So to me, like, that's where I would start the conversation. It's just boring. And by the way, most people start the conversation in making money. I would start the conversation in where you're spending time and energy. Almost always, if you can save people like a massive amount of time and energy, they'll pay you money to buy back their time. That's really what every software is in essence. There's very few software that you use because it directly just makes you a bunch of money. In fact, I can't even think of even high level, which is the closest to like a money-making software. You still got to build shit and do shit. The reason you use it is because it saves you fucking time and energy, and you can use it like in a leveraged way. So what we're really buying is time and energy. So when you focus on those things and focus on recurring fulfillment problems, you can create like a billion kind of software and tool that you can rent out monthly. And almost, by the way, any tool you create, you're probably going to be the only one who has, at least for a period of time, till somebody else copies you. And so you have a chance to not just recurring monthly for one client, like whatever helps one accountant probably helps 10,000 accountants, right? Like whoever needs tax accounting software, it's probably not just one person, right? So if you build tools that solve recurring problems, where especially where there's time and energy leaks, you're going to find yourself getting a whole lot of recurring money as a result of it. And it's boring shit. Like I mentioned this to one of our awesome, brilliant mastermind members, Chris Hunter. He's got a wife who's an assistant principal. And as part of being an assistant principal, once a quarter, she goes around to every classroom and she has to do these reports. And they're long and they're manual. And then she has to take all the information she finds from each classroom and write it into like a master report. It's one of those bureaucratic things. Nobody fucking reads it. And so he made his wife a custom GPT where she can take the notes from the classroom, put it in there, and it'll output the finished report based on everything that's in there. And so now, instead of spending 8 hours making this report, it takes fucking 8 seconds, right? And she has to do this. It's a recurring thing, right? Every quarter. So like 4 times a year, she's got to do it. By the way, you think that she's the only assistant principal that's got to do that? How many other assistant principals do you think would pay like $39 a month to not have to fucking do that shit and not have to spend 8 hours when they could just load it up in a software that's pre-made and pre-programmed on that stuff? So that's my way of saying you can take that to the next level by focusing on those things. That's the easiest way, I think. I don't think this entrepreneurship is ever easy, but like it's the easiest way. Take a boring fucking repetitive problem that they got to do, solve it with some tools, and rent it out month after month after month after month. And once you rent it to one person, rent it to 10,000 people. And yeah, so that's all we got, by the way, for questions. For those of you guys, I mentioned this before, Facebook's doing that thing, so I don't see your comments live, but you guys can shout nasty things into the void, and I will reply after. For those of you guys who missed the intro, just want to tell you that we're building tools and swipes galore inside of our Wolf Pack to help you guys, scale up agencies and do shit faster. I don't even know what I was going to say on that. Other than that, if you guys haven't checked that out, or if you've been on the fence, do it, just so you guys know, because we're about to do some really big things that may require me to close that up permanently and only just keep who's actually inside of it. I'm not saying for sure that will happen, but I am saying that it's entirely possible because we're working on some really, really, really big things behind the scenes here. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys in this week. But if you want to check that out, you can go to beyondagencyprofits.com. Click the link for the Wolfpack. There's a video. Ain't anybody. We don't do high pressure sales pitches. You can read it on your own time. Decide if it's right for you. That's pretty much all I got for you guys. Happy Monday. May the force be with you. Appreciate y'all, motherfuckers.
Buy my book, or I will replace your entire Spotify playlist with Nickelback covers. Yes, I would.